Stay with me until the end, because only then will the full story make sense. This isn't just about music, it's about secrets, heartbreak, and survival. Benny Andersson, the quiet genius behind ABBA's biggest hits, was hiding something darker. During the golden years of ABBA, while the world danced to Dancing Queen and Mamma Mia, Benny admitted years later that he couldn't function without alcohol. Every song, every performance, every award, he was drunk through it all. Yet his real confessions went deeper. Songs like The Winner Takes It All weren't just catchy heartbreak ballads. They were his way of saying what he couldn't face in real conversations. Benny's journey began in Stockholm on December 16, 1946. His childhood home was filled with music, not as background noise, but as a living language. His father and grandfather played the accordion, filling nights with Swedish folk melodies. At 6, Benny got his own accordion. Unlike most children who would set it aside, Benny became obsessed. He learned how tunes could tell stories, how melodies could speak without words. By 10, he discovered the piano. No lessons, no teachers, just him, the keys, and hours of trial and error. Slowly, he created his own style, blending folk roots with pop instincts. By 15, while others worried about school exams, Benny dropped out to chase music full-time. He played in youth clubs, building a reputation for his magnetic stage presence. At 17, life hit him hard. He became a father to Peter, and soon after, Helen. Balancing diapers and rehearsals wasn't easy, but it gave him emotional depth that later flowed into his music. Then in 1964, fate intervened. Benny joined the Hep Stars, a Swedish band rising fast. His organ skills electrified audiences, and soon he was dubbed a teen idol. But Benny wanted more than fame. He wanted to create. The Hep Stars gave Benny his first taste of real stardom. Their breakthrough came in 1965 when they performed Cadillac on national television. Over 1 million Swedes watched as Benny's organ playing stole the spotlight. The band was suddenly everywhere, hailed as the Swedish Beatles. But Benny wasn't satisfied with just performing covers. He wanted to write. His first attempt, No Response, was modest, but in 1966, Sunny Girl changed everything. Its delicate sadness captured a unique Swedish mood, reaching #1 and selling tens of thousands of copies. Suddenly, Swedish pop had global potential, and Benny was leading the charge. By 1969, Benny's songwriting and stage presence had made him one of Sweden's brightest stars. Yet destiny was waiting. During a tour, he crossed paths with Björn Ulvaeus, a fellow musician. They sat on a park bench, guitars in hand, and casually played Beatles songs. Neither realized it, but that simple jam session would change music forever. Their chemistry was instant. Soon they were writing together, building the foundation of what would later become ABBA. They even launched Union Songs, a publishing company that gave them full control of their music rights, a bold move that would secure their future wealth and legacy. Then came another turning point. In 1969, Benny met a young singer named Annie Frid Lyngstad, Frida. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Their romance turned into a musical bond, and soon she joined Benny, Bjorn, and Agnetha Faltskog. The pieces of ABBA were falling into place. In 1974, everything exploded. At Eurovision in Brighton, they performed Waterloo with glittering costumes and unstoppable energy. The song won, selling millions and breaking into the US charts. From that night on, ABBA wasn't just a band, it was a phenomenon. And at the heart of it all was Benny, the quiet perfectionist shaping every note. After Waterloo, there was no stopping ABBA. From 1972 to 1982, Benny and Bjorn wrote and produced every single ABBA track. Hits like Mamma Mia, Dancing Queen, and Fernando didn't just top charts, they became global anthems. Dancing Queen hit #1 in over a dozen countries, while Fernando sold millions in a single year. What set ABBA apart was Benny's unique touch. He fused Swedish folk traditions with pop, rock, and disco, creating a sound that was both catchy and deeply emotional. ABBA made people dance, but also made them feel. Yet behind the glittering costumes and sold-out tours, cracks were forming. Benny had always been more comfortable in the studio than in real life. He poured emotions into melodies rather than words, and while that gave ABBA its soul, it strained his personal life. His relationship with Annie Frid Lyngstad had begun in 1969 and turned into a marriage in 1978, but by 1980 the bond was breaking. On stage, they were the perfect couple. Off stage, Benny struggled to express himself beyond the music. Their divorce in 1981 coincided with ABBA's decline, and the sadness seeped into their final album, The Visitors. Songs like One of Us and When All Is Said and Done carried raw heartbreak. Fans heard more than music. They felt the unraveling of two marriages and the slow end of ABBA itself. Benny later admitted he used songs as a shield, avoiding the real conversations he couldn't handle. "I gave my best lines to songs, not to the people who needed to hear them," he confessed. By 1982, the spark had faded. There was no dramatic breakup, just silence. ABBA didn't crash, it dissolved quietly. Behind the pop perfection, for people were broken, and Benny was left battling demons the world couldn't see. The years after ABBA were some of Benny's darkest. Without the constant tours and studio sessions, he was left alone with himself, and the silence was heavy. Fame had given him everything, but now it felt like a void. To numb the emptiness, Benny turned to alcohol. For over a decade, drinking became his shadow. He once admitted he couldn't face mornings without it. Success had made him rich, but it hadn't made him happy. His marriages crumbled, first with Annie Frid, then later with Mona Norclett, and friends drifted away as the addiction took control. But music never abandoned him. In the late 1980s, Benny and Bjorn reunited creatively. They wrote musicals like Chess and later Christina Fran de Vemela, proving their genius went beyond ABBA. Still, Benny battled his demons. In interviews, he described it as a slow drowning, where every day felt heavier than the last. The man who had written songs of joy and love was privately spiraling into despair. Then came a turning point. In the mid-1990s, Benny decided to fight back. He admitted himself into treatment and began rebuilding his life step by step. He reconnected with his roots, playing folk music on the accordion, and found therapy in simplicity. Slowly, the shadows lifted. By the 2000s, he was sober, focused, and back in love with music, not as a weapon to escape, but as a way to live. ABBA's legacy grew even bigger during this time. The 1999 Mamma Mia musical and later the Hollywood films reignited global obsession with their songs. For Benny, it was redemption, proof that his pain had created something timeless. But even as ABBA soared again, he remained humble. "I don't need to be seen," he said. "The music is enough." By the 2010s, Benny Andersson had become something rare, a legend who chose peace over spotlight. While the world celebrated ABBA's revival, he preferred quiet mornings in Stockholm, composing at his piano. Unlike many stars, he never chased attention. "I don't enjoy being recognized," he once said. "The music is what matters, not me." Yet, paradoxically, his music had made him immortal. In 2018, ABBA stunned fans by announcing they had recorded new songs after decades apart. Then, in 2021, they released Voyage, an album that became a global sensation. It wasn't nostalgia, it was proof that four people in their 70s could still capture hearts. Songs like I Still Have Faith in You carried a depth only time and pain could create. Benny's fingerprints were everywhere, the lush arrangements, the haunting melodies, the balance of joy and melancholy. It was ABBA, but wiser, more fragile, and somehow even more powerful. Meanwhile, Benny's personal journey had reached balance. Sobriety gave him clarity, and family grounded him. He often spent evenings with his accordion band, Benny Andersson's orchestra, playing Swedish folk tunes for small crowds. It was worlds away from stadiums, but that was the point. For Benny, happiness was no longer measured in charts or sales, but in moments of genuine connection. Looking back, his story is one of contrasts. A man who gave the world songs of happiness while privately battling despair. A perfectionist who wrote anthems for millions but struggled to speak his own heart. Yet his legacy is undeniable. ABBA's music is now woven into culture itself, weddings, movies, memories. And at the core of it all is Benny Andersson, the quiet genius who proved that even the most broken souls can create beauty that never dies.